Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen closely today. We are living in a world where betrayal, injustice, and hurt are often hidden in the shadows. People will harm you in secret, whisper lies, and try to tear you down when you least expect it. But here's what I want you to remember today. God sees everything, and no secret can remain hidden forever. You see, there is a law that is unshakable, a truth that stands above all else, the law of exposure. The things that are done in the dark will be brought to the light. I want you to understand this. Those who hurt you, those who try to undermine you, they may think that their actions will go unnoticed, but God is the ultimate revealer. He is the one who holds the keys to truth. You've been betrayed in the silence of someone's hidden motives. But let me tell you, that betrayal will not stay in the dark. It will not stay in the shadows. God's timing is perfect, and when He exposes what was done in secret, it will be for your good. You will not have to fight back. You will not have to chase down the truth. God will expose it for you. It's not about revenge. It's not about condemnation. It's about justice. It's about God lifting you up while bringing clarity to the deception that was meant to pull you down. Why does God allow these things to happen in the first place? Why does He allow you to experience hurt, pain, and betrayal? Here's the truth. God is building your character. He is teaching you to trust in His plans, His purpose, and His protection. He is strengthening you. You see, pain and betrayal are not the end of your story. They are the foundation upon which God will build your breakthrough. God wants you to understand your value and your worth, not through the eyes of your betrayers, but through His eyes. He wants you to know that even when people try to tear you apart in secret, they cannot tear apart the purpose He has placed inside you. They cannot destroy what God has designed for you. When God exposes those who sought to hurt you in secret, it's not for you to seek revenge or to point fingers. It's for you to recognize that you serve a God who is just, a God who knows every secret and every motive, a God who will make sure that every wrong is set right in His time. And when that happens, your position will be elevated, your voice will be heard, and your influence will be undeniable. But understand this, the key to victory in these situations is not in seeking to expose them yourself. Your job is to keep walking in integrity, to keep trusting God, to keep pursuing the purpose He's called you to. But if He also has a purpose in you to be trusted without question or under doubt of you, when God exposes those who have hurt you, He will do so in a way that doesn't require you to lift a finger. It will be clear that it is His doing, and His name will be glorified. People will hurt you in secret, thinking that their actions will go unnoticed. They will plot against you in the shadows, whisper lies behind your back, and perhaps even smile to your face while secretly working against your best interests. But let me remind you of a crucial truth. Nothing remains hidden forever, no matter how carefully they try to conceal their intentions. God sees everything. He knows every secret, every thought, and every plan. While people may think they've gotten away with their betrayal, they are only deceiving themselves. God is the ultimate revealer of truth, and He will not allow what has been hidden. When someone hurts you in secret, they believe that their actions are shielded from view. They believe that the harm they've caused will go unnoticed or that their lives will be left unchallenged. But there is a divine principle that cannot be ignored. What is done in secret will eventually be exposed. You may not see it immediately, And the person who hurt you may seem to continue with their deceit without any consequences. But trust in God's timing. His plan is greater than any of their schemes. He will bring to light everything that was meant to stay hidden, and he will do it in a way that no one can deny his power. At times, it may feel as though the weight of their betrayal is too much to bear. The secret hurt can be deeply painful, especially when it comes from someone you trusted, someone you believed was on your side. It can feel isolating and unjust, as if no one sees the truth of what's happening behind closed doors. But understand this, just because you can't see the exposure right away doesn't mean it's not coming. God is aware of every secret plot, every hidden agenda, and he is more than capable of revealing the truth when the time is right. We have to remember that God's timing is always perfect. He doesn't work according to our clock, but his timing is never late. While we may want things to be exposed immediately, God knows when the right moment is for the truth to come to light. Often, he allows these hidden hurts to unfold in a way that not only reveals the lies, but also protects you and prepares you for what's coming next. His timing ensures that the exposure will not only bring justice, but also honor you in the process. And when God exposes the truth, it is not just about bringing the wrongdoer to light. It is about lifting you up and positioning you for the next step in your journey. When we trust in God's ability to expose what is hidden, we are also trusting in his ability to handle the situation. We don't need to fight back. We don't need to seek revenge or try to expose them ourselves. God is the one who will bring to light what was done in darkness, and he will do so in a way that glorifies his name and secures your victory. Your role in this process is not to get caught up in the details of their wrongdoing, but to continue to walk in integrity and trust God to do what only he can do. The truth will come out, and when it does, you will stand not as a victim, but as a testimony of God's faithfulness. What is important for us to understand is that when God exposes the hurt done to us in secret, it is not about our personal vindication. It is about God's justice. It is about proving that he sees every wrong, and he will make sure that what was done in secret does not remain hidden. It is also about showing the world that we serve a God who sees all, a God who is faithful to reveal the truth and right the wrongs that have been done against us. This is not our battle to fight. It is God's. Our responsibility is to keep trusting, keep walking in his truth, and keep living according to his purpose. In the end, while people may hurt you in secret, they cannot escape the light of truth. God will expose them at the right time, and he will do so in a way that restores your peace, strengthens your position, and ultimately brings glory to his name. The darkness may seem overwhelming in the moment, but know this: light always conquers darkness. And God's light will shine through every secret, every betrayal, and every plot against you. Trust in his process and wait on his perfect timing. Your exposure will come, and with it, your elevation. There are times when we feel like justice should come quickly, that the wrongdoers should face the consequences of their actions immediately. When we're hurt in secret, it's easy to want to expose the betrayal right away. We want the truth to come to light so that people can see the wrong that has been done to us. But there is something we must understand. God's timing is always perfect. And he has a plan that is greater than our own sense of urgency. While we may want the truth to be exposed immediately, God knows exactly when the right time is for everything to be revealed. God's timing is not like ours. We operate on a clock. We think in terms of days, weeks, or months, and we often believe that things should happen in the immediate moment. But God sees the beginning and the end of every situation. He is not bound by time, and his perspective is not limited to our current circumstances. When it feels like the hurt is dragging on and the wrongdoers continue to go unpunished, remember that God is never late. He will expose what is hidden when the time is right, in a way that will not only bring justice, but also glorify his name and strengthen you in the process. God knows exactly when to bring the truth to light, and he does so in a way that is aligned with his ultimate plan for you. While we might want the truth to come out right now, God may allow a little time to pass so that his perfect will can unfold. Sometimes he allows us to endure the pain of the moment so that we can grow stronger, learn patience, and trust him more deeply. In these moments of waiting, God is building our character, preparing us for what he has in store for us next. He is teaching us to rely on him, to trust that he will act on our behalf at the right moment. Think about Joseph in the Bible. He was betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, and sold into slavery, all done in secret, in the shadows, far from his family's knowledge. Yet God allowed him to go through that painful process for a reason. It wasn't until years later, after Joseph had endured the trials and remained faithful to God, that the truth was revealed. His brothers came to him in need, and Joseph had the opportunity to not only reveal the truth of what had happened, but also to forgive them and step into the position God had prepared for him. If God had exposed the betrayal too early, the lessons Joseph needed to learn and the future that was in store for him might not have been realized. His exposure came at the right time, and it was that moment of truth that led him to his ultimate purpose and promotion. We may not always understand why we have to wait, why God's timing doesn't align with our own, but we can trust that God knows what he is doing. He is never late, and he will expose the truth when it will have the greatest impact. His plan is always bigger than our understanding. Sometimes the timing of exposure has less to do with the person who has hurt us and more to do with the process of refining us. God uses that time to purify our hearts, strengthen our resolve, and help us prepare for what lies ahead. He's teaching us to trust in his wisdom, not our own. When the truth is finally exposed, it will be evident that it was God's timing and not our own. It will be clear that the circumstances have played out in a way that only God could have orchestrated. No one will be able to deny that the exposure was in God's perfect will, and the glory will go to him. You will be able to look back and see how every piece of the puzzle fit together exactly as it was meant to. In the meantime, your role is not to rush the process or try to force things to happen. Your role is to trust. Trust that God knows the right moment for the truth to come to light. Trust that he is working behind the scenes, even when you can't see it. Trust that he will act on your behalf and reveal the truth in a way that honors him and fulfills his purposes for your life. Waiting on God's timing requires patience, but it also requires faith. The faith that God is in control and that he is working all things together for your good. When the truth is revealed in his time, it will be exactly what you needed. The exposure will bring clarity, restore your peace, and lift you to a place of victory. But remember, this isn't about your timing. It's about trusting in His. Pain and betrayal are often viewed as setbacks, as obstacles that are meant to discourage us and hold us back from the greatness that we believe is ours. It's easy to get lost in the hurt, to focus on the wrong done to us, and to question why we are going through such trials. But in the midst of all the pain, there is something powerful that God is doing within us. He is building our character. The process of enduring hardship, of facing betrayal and hurt, is not just about surviving. It is about growing stronger in our faith and understanding the depth of God's purpose for our lives. God does not waste our pain. He uses it to prepare us for the next chapter of our journey. When we experience hurt in secret, it can feel isolating. It can feel like the world is against us. And it may seem as though God has forgotten us. But the reality is that God is very much present in those moments of suffering. He is with us in our pain, working behind the scenes to mold and refine us into the person we are meant to be. Every time we face betrayal, every time we endure hardship, we are being shaped by the hands of our Creator. He is strengthening us, teaching us perseverance, patience, and trust. Without these lessons, we wouldn't be equipped for the next season of our lives. Think of the process of refining gold. Gold is put through intense heat and pressure to remove the impurities and reveal its true value. In the same way, God allows us to go through trials so that we can be purified and become who He has called us to be. It is through the fire of adversity that our true character is revealed. In those moments of hurt, we are not just victims of a situation. We are being refined, transformed, and prepared for the next level of our destiny. It's important to understand that God doesn't allow pain just for the sake of suffering. There is always a purpose behind it. If we allow ourselves to be shaped by our experiences, we will come out stronger, wiser, and more equipped to fulfill the purpose He has for us. It's easy to fall into the trap of bitterness or resentment when we've been hurt. But God is calling us to something higher. He is calling us to rise above the pain, to trust Him in the process, and to allow Him to use the very thing that was meant to break us to build us into something greater. In the midst of pain, we may feel as though we are losing, but God is doing something within us that cannot be seen immediately. The strength, resilience, and faith that are being developed in those times will be the very qualities that propel us into our future. When we face betrayal, we are often faced with two choices. We can allow the pain to define us, or we can allow it to refine us. God's desire is for us to choose the latter. He wants us to see our suffering not as an obstacle, but as an opportunity for growth. Every challenge is a chance to draw closer to Him, to deepen our trust, and to emerge stronger than before. We have to remember that God's purpose is always greater than the pain. The trials we face are not in vain. They are part of a bigger picture that we cannot always see from our current vantage point, but God sees it all. He knows exactly what we need to grow, to be equipped for the tasks ahead. Sometimes we have to go through the darkness to truly appreciate the light that follows. The process may not be easy, but it is necessary. God is working in us, preparing us for the greatness He has ordained for our lives. And here's the key: we are never alone in the process. God is with us every step of the way. Even when we feel abandoned, He is there. Even when we feel like giving up, he is strengthening us. Even when we don't understand why we are going through the pain, he is using it to create something beautiful in us. This is the heart of God. He is always working for our good, even when it's hard to see. And in his time, he will bring us through the trials stronger, more resilient, and more capable of stepping into the fullness of the life he has prepared for us. So, the next time you face pain or betrayal, remember that it is not the end of your story. It is just part of the process of God shaping you into who you were always meant to be. Yeah. Embrace the process, trust the journey, and know that on the other side of your pain is a version of you that is stronger, wiser, and more equipped for the greatness that lies ahead. Your pain is not wasted. It is being used to build you into the person who can handle the blessings and responsibilities that God is preparing for you. Keep trusting, keep moving forward, and let God refine you in the fire. Your breakthrough is coming, and it will be worth every step of the journey. When we face hurt, betrayal, and injustice, it's natural to want to take matters into our own hands. We want to right the wrong, expose those who have hurt us, and make sure they face the consequences for their actions. The desire for justice is a powerful force, and in many cases, it feels like we are the ones who must act to make things right. But there is a higher way, a better way. The truth is, we don't need to fight back. God is the ultimate source of justice, and he will handle the exposure of the wrongdoers in a way that is far more powerful and effective than anything we could ever do ourselves. We often think that in order to find justice, we must take the situation into our own hands. We might want to confront the person who has hurt us, speak out publicly, or expose their actions for the world to see. But when we try to fight our own battles, we risk stepping outside of God's will for our lives. We risk letting our emotions, pride, and hurt dictate our actions rather than trusting in God's perfect timing and divine justice. This is where the wisdom of trusting God becomes so important. God doesn't need us to fight his battles. He needs us to trust that he will act on our behalf and that his justice is always perfect. There is something powerful about releasing the need to seek revenge and instead allowing God to handle the situation. When we choose to let go of the desire to expose the wrongdoers ourselves, we are putting our faith in God's sovereignty. We are acknowledging that he sees everything, that he knows the truth, and that he will act at the right time. When we trust in God's justice, we allow him to handle the situation in a way that aligns with his will for our lives and the lives of those who have wronged us. Think of David, who was pursued by King Saul, the very king who was supposed to be his protector. Saul sought to kill David out of jealousy, chasing him across the land. Despite this, David never took matters into his own hands. He had opportunities to harm Saul, to exact revenge for the wrongs done to him, but he chose to trust God instead. David understood that vengeance belonged to God, not him. He knew that God's justice would prevail, even if it took time. In the end, God's justice came in the form of Saul's downfall, and David was elevated to the throne as God had promised. David's faith in God's justice and his refusal to act out of bitterness or anger set the stage for his victory and promotion. When we act on our own, we may be able to achieve temporary satisfaction, but the consequences of taking matters into our own hands can often create more damage. We might make the situation worse, hurt others in the process, or even jeopardize the very purpose that God has for us. When we try to expose someone or seek revenge, we risk making ourselves a part of the cycle of hurt and bitterness. But when we trust God's justice, we allow him to act in a way that is pure, righteous, and brings healing to all parties involved. Moreover, God's justice is always timely. We may not understand why we have to wait for his intervention, but we can trust that he is working behind the scenes, orchestrating everything to come together in his perfect timing. When God exposes the wrongdoers and brings justice, it will be in a way that not only rectifies the situation, but also honors him and strengthens our position. The exposure of the truth will be clear, and no one will be able to deny that it was God's hand at work. And in that moment, we will realize that God's justice was worth the wait, and his way was far better than anything we could have done on our own. Trusting in God's justice doesn't mean we are passive or complacent in the face of wrongdoing. It means that we are actively choosing to rely on his wisdom and his timing. It means we are choosing to walk in integrity, to hold our peace, and to let God fight for us. It means that rather than seeking to expose others, we are allowing God to expose the truth in a way that brings glory to his name. And when he does, we will be the ones who benefit, for we will stand victorious, not because of our own efforts, but because we trusted God to do what only he could do. So remember this: God's justice is perfect. He sees everything, and he will expose what has been hidden. He will make sure that the wrongs done to you are made right. But you don't have to fight that battle. You don't have to take matters into your own hands. Trust in God's timing, trust in his process, and trust that his justice will be more than enough to bring about the victory and peace that you seek. When we face hurt, betrayal, and injustice, it's easy to get overwhelmed by the desire for revenge or to seek a public confrontation. It's natural to feel anger and frustration when we've been wronged, especially when we know that others are behind our pain, working in the shadows to hurt us. But in these moments, there is a deeper truth that we must hold on to. Our integrity is not dependent on the actions of others. Despite the schemes and secret attacks against us, we must remain committed to doing what is right. Even when others are working to bring us down, we must keep moving forward with integrity, trusting that God sees our actions and will honor us for our faithfulness. Integrity is more than just doing the right thing when others are watching. It is about making the choice to stand firm in our values, even when no one else notices. When people hurt us in secret, it can be easy to justify compromising our own integrity. We may feel that if others are acting dishonestly, we are entitled to do the same. But God calls us to a higher standard. We are not to be defined by the actions of others, but by the integrity of our hearts. Even in the midst of hurt, we must choose to act with righteousness, to remain true to who we are, and to trust that God will honor our faithfulness. When others hurt us in secret, it's tempting to respond in kind. We may feel the urge to plot against them, speak ill of them, or seek revenge for the wrongs done to us. But the temptation to compromise our integrity in response to the hurt is a trap. If we act out of hurt, anger, or bitterness, we risk lowering ourselves to the level of those who have wronged us. Instead, God calls us to rise above that temptation. He calls us to remain true to our character, even when it feels like the world is against us. This is not about being passive. It is about choosing to trust that God will handle the situation and that we don't need to sacrifice our integrity in the process. It is important to recognize that integrity is a reflection of our trust in God's justice and timing. When we choose to act with integrity, we are acknowledging that God is in control and that He will handle the situation. We are letting go of the desire to take matters into our own hands and trusting that God's plan is better than our own. The temptation to retaliate is often a sign that we are not fully trusting in God's ability to bring about justice in His time. But when we keep moving forward with integrity, we are putting our faith in His wisdom, His timing, and His sovereignty. In those moments when we are hurt, it's essential to remember that our integrity is not just for our own sake. Our actions speak louder than words, and our responses to betrayal and hurt are often a testimony to others of the strength of our faith. When we choose to remain steadfast in our integrity, we show the world that we are different. We are not swayed by the actions of others. We are defined by our relationship with God and our commitment to living according to His principles. This is a powerful witness to those around us, showing them that God's ways are higher than ours and that even in the face of hurt, we can choose to reflect His love, grace, and forgiveness. Moreover, when we act with integrity, we are building a foundation for our own future. Our actions today have a direct impact on the doors that will open for us tomorrow. If we compromise our integrity in the face of adversity, we may gain a temporary victory, but we risk losing the long-term blessing that God has in store for us. God honors those who choose to walk in His ways, even when it's difficult. He sees every act of kindness, every decision to walk in integrity, and He will reward us in ways we cannot even imagine. It is often in the quiet moments when no one else is watching that God is shaping our future. It's important to remember that acting with integrity doesn't mean that we ignore the wrong done to us. It doesn't mean that we act as if everything is fine when it isn't. It means that we make a conscious choice to rise above the hurt and do what is right, even when it's hard. When we hold fast to our integrity, we are demonstrating that we trust God to handle the situation, and we are choosing to honor Him through our actions. It may not always be easy, but the reward is worth it. As we continue on our journey, we must remember that our integrity is a testimony to God's work in our lives. It is a reflection of our trust in Him, our commitment to living according to His ways, and our belief that He will take care of the rest. No matter what others do to us in secret, we must keep moving forward with integrity, knowing that God sees our heart and that He will honor us in His time. When we choose to walk in integrity, we are not only protecting our own character, but we are also positioning ourselves for the blessings that God has in store for us. And in the end, our integrity will be the very thing that sets us apart, allowing us to stand strong and victorious, not because of our own strength, but because of the God who is with us every step of the way. There is a profound truth that we must hold on to in moments of hurt and betrayal. God's exposure of what has been done in secret is not just about bringing justice to the wrongdoer, but it is also about protecting us and elevating us. When we endure hurt in secret, we often feel the weight of the injustice and wonder why we must suffer in silence. But the reality is that God, in his wisdom, uses those very moments of suffering to shield us from greater harm and to prepare us for a future that is far more glorious than we can imagine. The exposure of the wrongs done to us is not just about making things right. It is about setting us up for the next chapter in our destiny, where we can walk in a greater level of purpose, peace, and promotion. When we are hurt in secret, the immediate pain can be overwhelming. We may question why things are happening the way they are, why God is allowing us to go through this particular trial. But God sees the bigger picture. While we may be focused on the hurt we are experiencing now, God is already preparing us for what is ahead. His exposure of the hidden wrongs is part of his divine protection. It is his way of ensuring that we are not trapped in situations that could hinder our growth or take us down a path of destruction. What may feel like a setback is actually God's way of setting us up for a divine breakthrough. Think about the story of Joseph. Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and unjustly thrown into prison. From the outside, it seemed like his life was falling apart. But in reality, each trial Joseph faced was part of God's plan to protect him and position him for greatness. God used those moments of suffering to refine Joseph, to strengthen him, and to prepare him for the role he would one day hold as a ruler in Egypt. The betrayal, the hurt, the hidden injustice, none of it was wasted. God was using it all to elevate Joseph into a position where he could not only fulfill his own purpose, but also save his family and an entire nation. In the same way, when we face hurt and betrayal in secret, we must trust that God is using those painful experiences to shape us for something greater. While it may not make sense in the moment, we can rest assured that God is at work. He is protecting us from situations or people that could hold us back. And he is preparing us for a future that is aligned with his purpose for our lives. The exposure of what has been hidden is not just about justice, it's about positioning us for the next season of blessings and favor that God has for us. There is a spiritual protection that comes with God's exposure. That when he reveals the truth, he not only brings justice, but he also opens the doors for us to step into the fullness of our destiny. We might feel like we're losing in the moment, but in reality, we are being protected and prepared for a future that we may not fully understand yet. The enemy may have tried to harm us, but God is using those very attacks to bring us closer to the place where he wants us to be. Every setback is a setup for a divine comeback. Every moment of hidden pain is part of a bigger story that God is writing. God's protection through exposure also guards our hearts. It's easy to become bitter, angry, or resentful when we're hurt in secret. But when we trust God to handle the situation, we allow him to protect us from the negative emotions that can taint our hearts. If we try to take matters into our own hands, we risk allowing the hurt to consume us, leading to bitterness and unforgiveness. But when we let go and trust that God will expose the wrongs in his perfect time, we protect our hearts from the toxic effects of bitterness. Instead of becoming hardened by our pain, we allow God to purify our hearts and position us for the blessings that he has in store. There is also a powerful sense of peace that comes with trusting God's exposure. When we stop trying to fight the battle on our own and allow God to handle it, we release the burden of carrying the weight of injustice. This peace doesn't come from the absence of conflict or difficulty, but from the knowledge that God is in control and that his plan is always better than our own. It's a peace that surpasses understanding, a peace that guards our hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. The exposure of what has been hidden is not something to fear, it is something to embrace, because it is God's way of bringing us into a place of greater security and favor. Ultimately, God's exposure is a sign of his love for us. He is not revealing the truth to punish those who have hurt us. He is revealing it to protect us, to elevate us, and to prepare us for the future he has ordained. His timing is always perfect, and his ways are higher than our own. When we trust him, even in the midst of hurt, we can rest in the knowledge that he is working everything together for our good. The exposure of hidden wrongs is not just a moment of justice, it is a divine opportunity for us to step into the fullness of our purpose and calling. So, as we endure the trials and hurts in secret, we must remember that God is at work behind the scenes. He is not only bringing justice, but also protecting us and positioning us for something far greater. The exposure of what has been hidden is not something to fear. It is something to embrace, knowing that it is part of God's divine plan to bring us into a season of greater purpose, peace, and promotion. Trust God in the process and watch as he reveals the truth and opens the doors to your future. As we reflect on the journey through hurt, betrayal, and the secret actions of others, we must remember that God's ways are higher than our own. The road may seem long and filled with pain. Trust in the process. For God is working behind the scenes, refining us, protecting us, and positioning us for greater things. When we remain steadfast in our faith, holding on to integrity, and trusting God's timing for justice, we open the door to his divine intervention. His exposure of hidden wrongs is not just about justice, it's a divine preparation for the blessings he has in store. Remember, the hurt you feel today is not wasted. God uses it to shape you into the person you were always meant to become. Your breakthrough is on the horizon, and the exposure of secret wrongs will only serve to elevate you as God's purpose unfolds in your life. Keep trusting, keep moving forward with integrity, and never lose sight of the fact that God is with you every step of the way. Thank you for allowing me to share this message with you. May you walk in confidence, knowing that your future is secure in his hands. May you continue to trust God's process, and may his peace surround you, even in the most challenging moments. Good luck on your journey, and remember, you are never alone. God bless you.